All right, greetings each and every last one of you out there by way of internet. We're back with Erick the Lovely, or Brother Erick, is like we like to know him. We enjoyed the speaking to. He's been very busy here at Straightway. So not only has he talked for just about 3 hours the first day here, he's been talking continually and staying up late at night. Because people have a lot of questions, because he's filled with a lot of knowledge, and we thank the Father that he's here. And so we're interested to hear what he has to say today, as well as his evening sound. Now we're looking at along about a 6 o'clock time frame. There will be no blog talk radio tonight, because we're going to be here. We're going to be here listening to what Brother Erick has to say. So we're going to be here from 6 till 9 or until. But if you have questions by way of the internet, Brother Juan is back there. You can either get on Skype or MSM and go ahead and type some questions, and he'll kind of signal Brother Erick, and either him or Elder Doug will actually convey your question to Brother Erick while he's in the midst of it. He doesn't mind stopping and answering questions while in the midst of speaking. Or if you're in here and you have a question about something, just simply raise your hand. He'll address you, and he'll continue on driving on like a good old soldier. So tonight at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time, we'll be back here again, listening to more of what Brother Erick has to say. So without further ado, Brother Erick.
Oh, well, thank you. All right, shalom everyone in the room and to those on the internet, and hello to everybody else. Yesterday, Friday, as most people are familiar with it, because I know that there are people tuning in today that are not within our group or mentality. Okay, so there are people who are outside of that influence who are tuning in to gain knowledge and understanding, just like the brothers and the sisters here. So I want to say hello to those individuals. I want to say hello to the guys on Rents Radio Network. I want to say hello to everyone who is on Shoutcast. I want to say hello to everyone on Wide Awake News. I want to say hello to everyone who's finding whatever venue you are here to find this knowledge. Now, before I get started, there is something that has really been weighing on me since I have spent my time here. And I want to communicate that to the people who have their signed letters and who are going to get to be here at God's. Okay, and the only thing that I can say that has been given to me is that what will be shown to you at God's are building blocks. They are very important. Okay, as a warrior nation, we have to nurture not only our ability to preach, teach, understand, praise Yah, we have to nurture our ability to defend ourselves and the things around us and our family. So I hope that those who are coming here to God's take it seriously. I hope those who come to God's are really going to put their nose to the grindstone, and I can't think of a better place or better people to learn these things from and with. Now, with that being said, yes, on the last presentation, we were speaking about Abraham Lincoln. And some of the things I didn't get to, I actually got to cover with some of the brethren after the presentation, because we were continuing the basic idea at that time of the same but different. So you have to understand that Yah had his Abraham. Well, Satan had his Abraham as well. Okay? And the reason why you need to understand that is because they claim, or we claim, Abraham is the father of the faith. Correct? So with that being said, Satan in this landmass needed a father of his faith. And the man who brought that about was Abraham Lincoln. Now, Abraham Lincoln, we talked about him being basically a degenerate, and he was a Adolf Hitler style mindseted individual. He carried the Ashkenazi dream, but just like Adolf Hitler, he wanted more power unto himself, which is the reason why he was killed. It didn't have anything to do with it had to do with he would not submit his new kingdom to the power of the Nazi banking system. When the Queen of England said, I will fund your armies, I will do all of these things, sign your name on the bottom line for a loan. Because he had no money. He had no riches and no wealth he could claim, because the riches and the wealth were in the South. That's why he couldn't let him go. So what did he do is he thumbed his nose at the Queen, and he broke his eternal soul agreement with Satan. So Satan had him dealt with. You do not double-cross Satan. It does not work. Adolf Hitler found out. Abraham Lincoln found out. Lots of people who have been assassinated have found out. Okay, once you were in agreement with him, if you attempt to break that agreement, he's going to do everything he can to destroy you and or kill you. So this is the reason why Abraham Lincoln fell. But Abraham Lincoln is not, he is just a cog. He is pretty much a puppet, a figurehead, okay, a do-boy. He is the pretty face that everyone sees for the induction of the Church of Satan, as I would see it, because it has many pieces and faculties. Your banking system is part of that church, okay, because it is all about giving you a facsimile or very close facsimile to what Yah has given you. Yah talks about money, wealth, gold, silver, tangible assets, objects you can hold in your hand. You know you're wealthy because you can pull it out of your pocket, and it has value on all four corners of the earth. Even now, when you look at it, Yah's form and understanding of money that was given to us is so powerful that no matter how much, there are 198 nations on the face of the planet. We have a military base in 178 of them. We have a Federal Reserve Bank in 178 of those countries. Wait, that's all of them. Okay, but even now, in every one of those nations, Yah's money is tradable. Satan he's doing everything he can to push it down, but he cannot deny its power. Because raw tangible assets have power. People want it. People could use it. You pull out a paper note, a paper dollar, it's junk, it's trash. You can't use it for anything. There is no exchange. I can't melt it down and make a hatchet. I can't melt it down and make a circuit board. Okay? I can't melt it down and make a fork or a spoon or a knife or a bullet or whatever it is. Metals, precious objects, wealth has tangible use in the world. That's why you can trade it. Yah chose a centerpiece tangible object that everyone would enjoy and everyone could use in one fashion or another. So what did everybody do? Well, I'll trade chickens for it. I'll trade cows, corn, land, whatever, cars. It doesn't matter. So when you start to look at, as Abraham fades out, Abraham Lincoln, he fades out of the scene. Well, some of the very first individuals that showed up afterwards were the reformation of law, and they introduced the Organic Act of 1871, which we already know from the previous is what we call the U.S. Constitution, or the Constitution of the United States. This is a completely different document and goes a different direction. However, as we talk about how the law changed, we also have to come to a greater comprehension of what else really truly was going on. Because the economic structure of a religion and a people is but one piece. So we could talk about fiat currency and dollars and so forth till we're blue in the face. But what I want to introduce to you is the second wave of individuals that came from the European nations to introduce something to us called eugenics. Okay? Now, eugenics, many cultures and many people have decided that eugenics was set out against them. Me personally. If you look at it, if you look at the inner city communities, in your Hispanic communities, in your black communities, and all these communities, and they look back at eugenics laws like Jim Crow. Now, people look at it as a slavery law. They look at it as a law of oppression, which are true. But I'm here to tell you that, let's say the black community had the Jim Crow laws. Does anyone know what right to determination is? It's the exact same thing applied to the poor white trash as the Jim Crow laws, only it includes sterilization against your will. If you were found guilty in court, to be incompetent, to be mentally deteriorated, to not have the functionability to produce an upstanding white child in the community, you were sterilized. If your parents refused, they lost their home, their property, all their other children. They lost everything. Eugenics spurred out in many directions. These laws attacked everybody who was not the elite. This is what people have to understand and have to come to a greater comprehension understanding of. The elite do not separate themselves by color. The elite do not separate themselves by any manner that you are programmed to separate yourself by. And they laugh at you because the people out there do it. They separate themselves by class, intelligence, power. This is what they call themselves, the elite. That if you were worthwhile, if your existence was meant to be, if you were not a useless eater, then you would be rich, you would be affluent, you would have property, you would have education, you would walk around like a titan, and you would just bump things out of your way because you're that impressive. Stockbrokers, big money men, politicians, think tanks, all of these things are targeted and used and manipulated and controlled by what they call themselves the elites. Now, who you view in your mind right now, I'm sure, let's get some names real quick. We'll go right up here. Can you think of anyone in your history who you think would call themselves an elite? Any presidents, maybe? What about you? Who would you consider would call themselves an elite?
Maybe a Rothschild family.
These guys are captains. That's all they are. They're the face of the elite you get to see. There is a group of families. Just as Yah has bloodline, it means something, right? And for you to become an Israelite means that you become as if you were born in the land, which then makes your blood Israelite blood, does it not? Have a safe trip, brother. You have to understand or comprehend that the other side of the coin, Satan is the same, but different. Bloodline is as important to him as it is to Yah. Now, you can get benefit from him if you pledge your undying soul to him. He will raise you up through the ranks and make you affluent. He'll give you power. But you will never be what is the inner circle. The pinnacle of these things would be a Rothschild. Now, these are acolytes. They are captains. They move out into the field. But what you really want to do research on, for those who are writing it down, they are called themselves the Olympians. Or the Council of 300. Now these people, the reason why they call themselves Olympians, because Satan has told them that they are God men. That they are the cream of the crop. That they are better than every other living thing, and you are nothing but goyim, useless cattle. Anybody ever seen the Talmud? This is their ideology. This is where it comes from. You are to be used as a beast of burden, killed, slain, destroyed, and thrown away at their whim. Because you are what? Everybody looks at the old laws and they look at how the Jim Crow laws and things. Look, you've all been programmed to call yourself a human being. Black's Law Dictionary, Volume 9. Look up what a human being is. If you call yourself a human being, you are admitting to the ideology of the Nazi that you are what they say you are. 3/5 of a living being. You are useless chattel property. Stop calling yourself that. They use words against you. So you must come to a greater comprehension of the vocabulary that you are using, maybe not from peer to peer, but when you engage with the so-called law, the police officer. Out of the eugenics program has come his training and the vocabulary that he uses. Citizen, U.S. citizen, human being, human rights. Well, if you are 3/5 of a living thing, what is a human right? It's 3/4 of what anybody else's rights have. And if you are property, if you are a cow, you get whatever right is assigned to you and can be taken from you at any time they deem and wish. This is your court system. It is British common law. At any moment they deem you unfit. But we're going to start to talk about things, other words that you should write down for today. Adhesion contracts. Adhesion contracts, and we're going to name just a couple real quick. Driver's license, birth certificate, credit cards. Anything that you ask for from them is an adhesion contract. Why? But because to get whatever benefit Satan gives you, you have to give up one of y'all's privileges that Yah endowed you with. You have to exchange it. Okay? Look at the documentation. Property. If you own property, look at your deed or bill of sale. You own nothing. You have limited liability, lien. You own 49.1%, and that is given to you as a privilege and can be taken away the moment the government wants your land. So, during the eugenics program, they started to build institutions. They started to create buildings and create think tanks and produce papers to the public to read. Because if you look at society, we all know, no matter what period you look at, there is a separation of education. No matter what community you come from, there are people at the bottom, and the bottom is generally bigger than any of the other sections. The people in the middle, who are the workers who produce, they're more educated and they have the ability, it's in there for them to think. Well, then you have another class, which is called the affluent, and the lawmakers, the leaders. This ideology came directly into our nation with eugenics. It was the king's law. Now, when we say that, the king's law, the law of the king is Satan's law. We have already established that a king married himself to corporations and businesses. Every king did, to produce money in his coffers so he could pay the lords to keep them loyal, to manage his property. He would put them over fiefdoms, and they would generate corporations that would then fill their coffers, which would pay tribute to the big guy upstairs, and so on and so forth. So you have to understand that this ideology called divine rule is from Babylon. It is the Satan's law. So you have to understand and really come to grips with the reality that after our forefathers lost, the Republic fell in 1860, officially. Now, I know people don't want to hear that. And I know people don't like it. Those who are in the know, who really know what the Republic was and really truly have a great grasp on the 70 years that it existed.
Excuse me, Brother Eric. We have a question from one
okay.
of the brethren out here, and the question is are we under British common law or maritime justice law? Yellow fringe around the flags in the federal courtrooms, question mark.
You are, okay, is that the end of the question?
Yes, sir, it is.
Oh, with the sir. Stop calling me sir. All right, yes. You are under what now is a unification or a merger of UCC, Universal Commercial Code, and British common law, which has always been there. The union has always been there, because we talk about the Queen and the King. Where did the queens and the kings get their authority? It came from the Pope. So there were two courts established. The British Common Law Court, which is a version or variation of the original Roman law. Okay? You can follow this like a trout upstream, all the way back through history. But let's continue. The British use British common law to exert their authority. Well, after we pushed British common law around, it did come back. However, another group came with them, which was the Catholics, which to me is also the Church of Satan. The Catholics have their own court. It's called the International Court of Rome. So the two greatest powers, people have to understand, the centerpiece and the left hand. Now, Yah has people sitting on either side of him, right? On one side, he's got an archangel. On the other side, it's the Word. Those are the right and left hands of Yah. So does Satan. So when you look at this, you have the vicar of Christ who sits on a throne, who is supposed to be the embodiment of Satan's power on earth. He has granted power to the Queen of England and exalted her to be the defender of the Catholic faith. So she is the defender of Satan's church on earth. And I don't care if you don't like it, Elizabeth, but it's time to get ugly. Now, they merged law, Roman indoctrination from the Holy Roman Court and the British common law together. Which now, and so you bring the UCC, you bring British common law, you merge them together, and you have what's called Admiralty Maritime Law, the law of the water, which has now been imposed on the land. Okay? So with what you're looking at, yes, you are under the UCC. However, inside this particular nation, you also have a large influence of British common law. It is more about British common law. And the signifying, everybody wants to talk about the borders around the flag. Yes, if a military moves in and takes over your town, the yellow border around your flag means that it is martial law, it is military dictatorship, they control. If you go into the courtroom, what do you see? But since we're on this issue and we start talking about law, so let's jump into it real quick. Words. Everybody talks about words. What does a judge mean to you? He's a judge, right? He's the guy that sits there with the gavel and he makes decisions. In reality, he is an arbitrator who rules from the bench. Well, in legalese, that's what the first, when we look at judge, and judge means arbitrator. Money changer. Okay? He is arbitrating who gets what. Okay, you get this much, you get this much, and the state gets this much. He rules from the bench. Bench, in direct translation into legalese, means bank. You are going before the bank and speaking to their arbitrator, attempting to seek remedy and justice. How are you ever going to find it there? It does not exist. It is a completely different creature. It lives somewhere else. However, there are long seminars I could give about seizing the vessel. becoming captain of the ship, taking over the courtroom for yourself. Now that's an interesting event when you stand on stage and you seize a courtroom because the judge leaves the room and you say, under the first article of the maritime law, I hereby seize this vessel under abandonment and appoint myself captain of the ship. All those who oppose say nay. Well, nobody else in the room knows what you're talking about. The bailiff's standing around looking at it, but the judge will stop at the door. And he will look back because he knows you're taking over his vessel. He is losing authority in that room. And then the very next thing that I did was I kicked the American flag over on the ground. It's not my flag. I was telling everybody in the room, military martial law, blink, is done in this room until I leave. Until I abandon this ship. And then you can get up, you can listen to cases, strike the gavel. You are the judge. You become captain of that ship. Because this is what they do, which we're getting a little ahead of ourselves. So we're going to back up some and go back into eugenics because we're going to get to, hopefully, when we talk about some of the words like understanding, apply, submit. Okay? These are all very important words in legalese. To you, they mean one thing. You will learn that they mean something completely different. If you study this and you learn legalese, you will guaranteed 100% be bilingual. It is a recognized language. It is the language of their law. They tell you these words when they educate you in school and tell you to use them. They tell you they mean one thing. Well, yeah, they do. To you and I, they may mean one thing. But when my dumb self walks in there and goes, and I get on that boat, they mean something completely different. And my mind will use those words thinking that I am communicating with the other people around me my thoughts, my feelings, and my expressions. When really, I'm submitting and giving my authority to them while I think I'm defending my authority. So it is trickery, and it is definitely words. But the Eugenics Project basically spawned research studies. Research studies that went on for many years, and we're going to talk about some of them too, to let you realize you are not that far from the raw touch of eugenics. True. You think that I'm talking about this started in the 1870s. Man, that's a long time ago. We don't see none of that. We don't see none of that mess no more. We don't see courtrooms. We don't see them taking young babies and young boys and young girls in there and have them playing with their private parts while nurses stand around and write stuff down. We don't have them cutting babies and cutting young adults and everybody standing around watching them bleed, taking notes. Because what they're really doing in the 1870s and the 1880s and the 1890s is they were seeing exactly how much damage can I do to my cattle before it dies and will produce me no more of anything. But they also said to themselves, and in many publications, go back in your eugenics research, you will see book after book after book after book after book. I don't have to give you a reading list. It ain't that hard to find because they aren't shy. They do not care. Eugenics is basically the art of cattle breeding applied to people. Can I get the best designated qualities? I don't want smart people. I want big, strong workers. I want workers that can work for hours. Go ahead, brother. You got the microphone?
Sir, I just wanted to ask, when you brought that up, I remember that I've heard that when you actually are in a courtroom, all the laws that are written on the books are actually stating that you're an animal and not a sovereign being made from the Father.
Correct.
Is that true?
It is 100%. Well, they always refer to you either as a human being or a person. According to Article 32, Section C, the person in question may or may not do Well, they referred to you as 3/5 of a living thing already. Right up front by calling you a person. It is a persona. It is a fiction. It does not exist. It is not who you are. So when you start with, you went back forward on me when I tried to go backwards to pick it up, but you are not a person. You have a person. You can create your own person through a trust, as me and Pastor have been talking about a little bit, but it is getting much more difficult. They're tightening the bolts down. They're locking the box up even tighter. Why? Because they're moving towards the mark. Now, I will also make the case I already think it's here. It's just called a Social Security number, but we're going to get into that in a minute. Now, when you originally look and you look at the eugenics program, they did everything. They molested children. They killed children. They killed young adults. They molested young adults. They subjected them to any number of LSD trials, drugs, poisons, and it didn't matter. They were testing everyone. Everyone. Laws ended up on the books based on their studies. Welcome to Jim Crow. You want to know where Jim Crow came from? Came from eugenics and the studies that they did on people. Because the studies said, well, the underprivileged, the poor, the indigent. Now a racist stepped in and said, blacks. But they meant everybody who was poor and indigent. But the Jim Crow law was specifically made by a nasty eugenics team who hated the black version of what they call useless eaters more than any other version. They actually said in their writings when they were talking about the Jim Crow laws, look, we can get to the white people whenever we need to. We got to wipe these ones out first because they're breeding too quick. They're making too many of them. The population is getting away from us. Our armies will have difficulty controlling them and keeping them in the farm. They physically referred to your towns and territories as a farm. Understand the way that they look at you. Understand truly, you should stand under, not in authority, but you should comprehend and quite understand exactly where they put you. Because until you know exactly where you are, you can't move from that spot. You have to truly, truly, truly know what your enemy thinks of you. You cannot fight your enemy. You cannot beat your enemy until you know your enemy as much as you know yourself. And this is the reality. So during the eugenics program, Jim Crow, you have these ideas that start to surface. Now I'm going to give you some key eugenics programs. Does anyone know the Chicago Project? Anybody have any idea how long ago that was? Well, I'll tell you. It wasn't that long. In 1960, these eugenicists, along with the work of the NSA, National Security Agency, mocked up taxis. You know, taxis. With a big old genocidal spray gun built into the trunk. The taxi had two tailpipes, one for the engine and one for them to spray chemicals as they drove around Chicago. And then scientists moved in, eugenic scientists, to the local emergency rooms and waited so that they could view the results. How many people would get sick? How many people would die? Does this affect the black genome more than it does the white genome? Does it affect the Hispanic genome more than it does the other genomes? Continually refining a way to exterminate needless cattle. Anybody heard of the Tuskegee event? 100% funded by J.P. Morgan and Rockefeller. through a eugenic society because when they started Tuskegee, anybody know the reason why the reason why they really went into Tuskegee is because they wanted to test the black male, because at that point there was a shift. They decided the white male was too smart. They decided, not me. Don't nobody get angry with me. They decided that the black male was smart enough to do the work, but dumb enough not to ask questions. So they wanted to expose them and torture them to the utmost extreme to see how far and how strong the physiology of the black man was as comparison to the white man, the Hispanic man, and every other man. There are actually writings out of the eugenics that say that the black race is now the chosen race of the elite for these reasons. Because they are pliable, because they act in emotion, they do not use their minds. Now, me and Pastor has talked about Yah in the Bible being about intelligence. I've talked that to many people in this room and that I have seen over my period being here. So what you should be doing, in my opinion, is working your brain. Yeah, you want to work on the temple. You want to keep the temple in shape. You want to keep the temple capable of defending itself, defending things around it. But what else is in the temple? What operates the temple? How do you decide if the temple's in danger? That's all up here. This is the command ship. So if you are in the idea of working the temple and honing the temple, I mean, you could paint your race car all you want. You could put shiny tires on it. You can put big old beefy stuff. But if you don't get under the hood and make sure the motor runs, you're going nowhere. This is your motor. This is just a fuel tank. It's a fuel system to keep the motor running. So the motor's up here. It is your brain. It is your mind. This is your weapon. It is the first line of defense. Now, as we get older, we lose this. So put yourself in a position where as you get older, you are around quality people that believe and trust in you, and you believe and trust in them, and you think alike, and you can make walks together. I'm pretty sure you can go back to Pastor Dowell's preachings and hear all that stuff verbatim or pretty darn close as much as you want. There is no real difference between the two of us in most of our aspects. So now the eugenics program produced in 1951 this wonderful woman, Margaret Sanger. You could go on the internet right now, right? And she had to change her speech when she gave it on TV. But she said the best thing you could do is kill the babies in the crib, especially the black ones, because she didn't agree with everybody else. See, the other eugenics were saying, no, we're going to get rid of all the others, and we're going to go with the blacks being the chosen cattle to serve us. And she was like, well, no, you need to choose the whites as the chosen cattle and get rid of the West. And she said the most humane thing you could do is bash their skulls in the crib. True. And then you go on the internet, you go to Margaret Sanger High School on YouTube, watch the video. There's a statue of her. She's standing out there. She's got a baby in one arm. She's got a little basket in the other. And you see the little inner city black kids coming out. Oh, and they kiss her feet. You're kissing an idol representation of a woman who said the best thing she could do is bash your head in. It's all about your mind. This battle is about your mind. Yes, it manifests itself in physical confrontation. Because when the enemy's mind can't overcome what's going on, it lashes out in violence. And you must respond in kind. Now, but this is really a battle about your mind. So the eugenics program, the very last conviction in West Virginia under eugenics law was 1979, where 3 young girls, 1 black, 2 white, at the age of 13, were stripped from their mothers in the courtroom, immediately taken to the hospital, and had basically their uterus taken out against their will. 2 of them bled to death at the shoddy care that was given them. 1 lived, scarred for the rest of her life. Now, Margaret Sanger is the lead, one of the main acolytes of the Nazi faith, or Satan's faith. There is a reason why she is a she and not a man. And people really need to take a look at that. That's the reason why she was brought forth. Instead of a man saying it, Satan brought forth a woman. It's difficult for you to stand up and really, truly, at that time, unless you really knew what rebuking was. But there was no real man in the public eye who was going to step up to her, get in a woman's face on TV and start putting her in her place. So she got to run rampant. But she had a partner. Okay? Now, the communities responded in the 60s and the 70s when they found out about eugenics. They started to attack the program. Gentlemen and men and women who worked together, who owned land, who owned property, and had wealth, and were still free citizens, believe it or not, started to fire back. So, the elites, these Olympians, handed down the rule that, well, Miss Sanger, we're real sorry, but your head's going on the chopping block so that we can dip out the back door and manifest ourselves somewhere else. Margaret Sanger had a right-hand man who ran and created, he ran the entire program. He compiled all the data from the different experiments. He did all of these different things, all these different disgusting things. He paid all the bills. He did everything for Miss Sanger. He was her assistant, right-hand man. Anybody know who he is? His name was Mr. Gates. He is the father of Bill Gates. He is the creator of Planned Parenthood. Planned Parenthood is your modern day eugenics program applied to you in the open, sanctioned by the government, and funded and paid by your taxes.
That's the truth.
You are now paying for your own destruction and the destruction of your neighbor. Whether they are Israelite or not, you are paying to have their babies killed if you pay taxes. This is the reality of the system that you live in. This is the reality of the principality that has control over the land that you are attempting to thrive and dwell on. The eugenic society has gone nowhere because these are the priests. These are the acolytes of Satan's church. Now, they're still on the march. But has anybody ever heard of Planned Parenthood? It's everywhere, ain't it? It's in every city. It's in every town. It's in every white trailer park. It's in every black inner city community. It's in every Hispanic ghetto. It's in the big towns. It's in the affluent towns. It's everywhere. Now, I want you to look at Planned Parenthood extremely close. I want you to do the research for yourself because you will find, you guys can go right down to the dinner hall. You can hop on the internet. You can listen to Margaret Sanger's speech. It comes right out of her own mouth. She tells you, the best thing you can do is kill them. That it is a sin for the less than capable to bring life into this world. And she says, because we have to take care of them. You just run around fornicating, making them babies. And we got to feed them, and we got to clothe them. We got to pay for their health care. You might as well just kill them and better off. So when you look, Planned Parenthood is a much softer approach. When you meet with a Planned Parenthood individual, oh, we know, young lady, you're only 15. You got pregnant. It's not your fault. The best thing you can do probably to get your life back on track is to have an abortion. Is it not the same theory?
Yes, sir.
I am just taking you out of the community. I'm putting you in a room with someone in a white coat and a piece of paper hanging on the wall that tells you this is the best idea.
Yep. Sir.
So instead of an arrogant dirtbag saying, well, just kill them all. Just throw them in a bucket. Yeah, you got to make it pretty. You got to make it appeal. Don't you want to go to school? Don't you want to have a life? You want to hang out with your friends? You don't want to cut yourself short, right? You can go have kids later, right? Abortion damages the uterus, whether they want to tell you that or not. It damages the birth canal and increases your chance of having birth defect babies by 35 to 40%. Just by going through the process. So not only are they killing the baby that's coming out of you, but they're trying to ensure nothing else healthy will come out of you either. That is the reality of life. Look at every single birth control, except, okay, let me not lie, except for condoms. Every single birth control they've ever presented damages the female reproductive system. Look at in vitro. Court case after court case after court case. Women put that thing in, they bleed to death. Right out their uterus. Can't stop it. Doctor can't, even if he takes the piece of plastic out, it doesn't stop. The shot in your arm. When they put the shot in your arm, it doesn't actually damage your reproductive system. No, it deposits mercury in your brain. If you don't know what mercury does in your brain, you better figure it out. One pure drop of mercury on the end of your tongue, you will fall over dead instantly. No more you. Don't believe me? Crack the top of a thermometer off and just touch your tongue to it. But remember, it's your own choice if you do. I did not make you do that. I'm telling you right now, you will die. Beyond the shadow of doubt. There's no amount of medicine that will save you. Yeah, that's it. You will die. And it will be, when I say instantaneously, yeah, it's about 7-8 seconds. But I guarantee you from watching someone die who was actually in a truck, bounced down through the desert, took his temperature, chin, hit the pad under, it's called a vest, and you have a plate in it. And when his chin hit the plate, the most ugliest thing, the most disgusting death, frothing out the mouth, eyeballs swelling up, flopping around like a fish. Only lasts a matter of a few seconds, but it looks like it is the most painful, the most disgusting way to die. Now let's talk about mercury in your vaccinations. Eugenics program. Eugenics program went into several different fields. You have other fields too where they go into Project Bluebeam. There's all these other different things that they start to talk about. But when you focus, they called it the Manchurian Project. Okay, the Manchurian Project, we all are familiar with it by producing the Manchurian Candidate. But the Manchurian Project was all about mapping your genome, coming to a greater comprehension of how the human individual body functioned. To do what? To create a disease or pandemic that can target an individual bloodline and species that walks the planet. So that if I say, all right, line me up 10,000 Hispanic people. Well, that's not enough to invade that city. Don't worry about it. All right, going in and mop up. But no, it won't bother you. Kills everybody in the city. Because it targets your genetic makeup. That is what this science was about. They wanted to know every single way, the best way to not only kill you, but to manipulate and control your mind and your body. This is the scientific extension of the gentleman we talked about yesterday, or not yesterday, but on fifth day, where we actually looked at Sigmund Freud. This is the extension application of his work in practice. He was a eugenicist. He was one of the first, and his job that he took upon himself was to take a whole bunch of drugs to lust after his mama and figure out how the brain worked. That's basically what he did. He took a lot of meth. He wanted to make love to his mother. And he wanted to dig into people's brains and figure out where that activity and where that mental aspect came from. Then we rolled it over into Edward Bernays, which is his cousin, who came to America and created consumerism, who is then backed up with Margaret Sanger as the pole bearer, the acolyte that came in and said, okay, we're going to push the envelope a little bit further. Which then led to Bill Gates, or Bill Gates' father, who said, I'm going to push the envelope a little bit further. Well, if you watch a recent interview by the affluent Mr. Bill Gates, I'm proud of my daddy. Because back in the day, we weren't allowed to openly talk about this. But look at all the good Planned Parenting has done for the world. And I'm so proud of him. I'm glad that they're donate $30 billion to the cause. Is he one of them? You think he's going to dig in his pocket for $30 billion and give it to something he doesn't believe in? That's Bill Gates. Everybody knows who Bill Gates is. Microsoft. It's the number one used operating system in the world. So when you really look at how eugenics is impacting our society, eugenics is all about culling the individuals that are beneath them and maintaining that population. Now, just as out of the eugenics, you have to understand, eugenics is the actual root philosophy of the Church of Satan that manifests itself and calls itself science. Now, I'm not saying all science is bad, but this thing that calls itself science is disgusting. And it permeates our society. It permeates the way we think. Now, once you start looking at Mr. Gates, Mr. Gates is funding several projects. One project is a mister. Anybody know what a mister is? It's basically, a lot of people use it in farming and agriculture. You mist your plants with it. You leave it on, and the timer goes ding, and it'll mist your plants. Well, he wants to create a nanite that when you walk in the bank, you walk in the grocery store, you walk in wherever, it will access your file by your visual imprintation. In other words, it will optically scan. Everybody's heard about the technology, right? To verify who you are. And if you have been deemed by the system to be a useless eater, you will be sprayed with this mister that carries a nanite in it that will terminate your ability to give birth or to produce children. Without your will, without your consent, they don't care.
Brother Eric, excuse me 1 minute. We have another question.
Fire away.
Okay, this one was reference to, you were talking about the DNA mapping or the context before.
The genome.
Yes, sir. And the question is, are you also referencing the VMAT2 God gene, which they claim is found in spiritual individuals?
Absolutely. Now, are they wrong? Well, no, I don't think so. I mean, God made this form. God had to give it the spark of life, a spirit, okay? Your spirit, the thing that will live on forever into the ever after, is separate from the flesh. However, the flesh have to, and it do have to communicate, i.e. the God gene. Now, the gene is there and it's real, but what they're going to do with it and how they're going to attempt to attack it and manipulate it, they're doing that through harmonics. Okay? They're doing that through chemicals in your diet. Bisphenol A or BPA inside your canned goods. That white lining inside the can, when you look in there and you open up your green beans, you open up your peas, you look in there and it's all white, that is bisphenol A. It is a sealant that they use in canning and curing processes of food, so that you will knowingly, well, I guess unknowingly, but willingly ingest it into your body. Bisphenol A, though, is slightly different because you ever notice when you were young, girls really didn't look like what girls look like today? They weren't as endowed as they are today. They weren't as pretty. They weren't as developed. That came later in the 20s. As they moved into their late 20s, they started looking like they look now at 14. Well, it is an upgraded shot of what's called metabolized estrogen. And it's not for the girls. It's for you and you. To make you like the girls. Pastor and I have had conversations about testosterone. About being a man. Because that's Israelite is taught to be a man. But if I can chemically rob you of the ability to be a man, game's over. If I can chemically neuter you and turn your men into weak, lily-ass faggots. You can chastise me about my language anytime you want, but that's what it is. That lily white color in that can is to turn you into a lily-ass faggot.
Brother Eric, another question.
Fire away.
Is that the same white plastic found in the lids of canning jars, i.e. mason jar lids?
Yes. You want to take on the olden day version of canning. Still use your metal lids. However, back in the day, my grandmother showed me this wonderful thing about how they used to can back in the day. Big old slab of wax. And you'll heat it. And you pour it right on top. And you fill the space between your jelly or your beans or whatever it is up to the top of the can. That wax barrier will protect you. Not 100%. Try to get the cans that have a flat metal lid or that have no sealant or coating on the lid whatsoever except for the ring that makes contact with the jar. That white product is dangerous. Now, what the byproduct of it is, what happens to females is they mature too quickly. That's why they look like they're in their 20s. Which causes them, in the end of their life, to meet all of the aging women problems way earlier than they're supposed to. Early menopause, early osteoporosis, vision loss, mental problems. I believe, in my opinion, and I'll say that right now for all you idiots up there in Washington who are watching me, It is my opinion, and I cannot prove it yet. But I believe that it brings on Alzheimer's and dementia in women because it's an overdose. Okay? It's an overdose of what their body creates. So people really need to... All of these things come from a eugenics program. Everything comes from the one of two ideologies. That's why I keep telling people there's only two choices in this world. There are only two. And unfortunately, the choice everybody in this room is making right now is on the ropes. You might as well imagine you're fighting Muhammad Ali. And it's late in the second round. He's got your eyeballs all beat up. You in the corner. You trying to put an arm around him to hold on. Can I make it to the end of the round? Here it comes again. All up in your face. Every aspect. Muhammad Ali could dance around from side to side, hit you on one side before you even felt it. He already hit you on the other side. That's where you are. You on the ropes. Everybody in the world is on the ropes. There is no bastion to go to. There's no place to run. There's no island that you're going to go to and hide. There's no hole you're going to dig in the ground, bury yourself. You have nowhere to go. Now make a choice. Stand up or lay down. It is all up to you. No one can make you do anything. They can attempt to. But if you know that beforehand and you are training and you are preparing yourself and you are doing what you need to do, you can overcome. Now, if you do not prepare for the march into battle, well, y'all is not going to help you. But if you are prepared and you are ready and you are sound and you march into battle, he will be right next to you. Because that's what he really wants. Read the scripture. Did he ever tell the Israelite nation to lay down? No. He said go out in the street and meet him. I'm coming. I'm y'all. Don't you worry, I'm coming. But are you? He didn't say, I'm going out there in the street. Y'all stay in the house while I take care of this. Open up the book. Anybody can find it, prove it to me. Hey, if it's in the book, I'll take my rebuction. I have no problem with it, but I can't find it. It is a joint venture. Everything you do in this life is a joint venture. It is either you and Yah or you and Satan. So you can grab one hand or the other. But that's what Satan's telling you. Oh, it's too hard. It's too dangerous. Go back in the house. Get in the house. I'll take care of you. We'll shut the doors. We'll hide. We'll get under the bed. But Yah's response is completely different. He's, get your ass out of that bed. Get your sword. Look at your woman in the corner. You go stand there and drool on yourself? Get your sword and meet me in the street. Where are you going? I'm going next door to get your other brothers. I'm going to go get the rest of the family and I'll meet you outside. If we aren't there when you get there, fight till we get there. If you die before I get there, don't worry, I will pick you up and carry you home. And your brothers will win this fight. One time, let me tell you a little story. William, this gentleman named William, he had a farm. He had 3 sons. He had 1 daughter. He had a wife. And he had a houseman. They were eating dinner. Houseman was serving the dinner. While they were eating dinner, he heard this noise. He said, man, sounds like drums. He said, he looked around the table at his children. He looked at his wife. He said, I know what that is. He got up away from the table. He told his manservant, you keep serving dinner. And then you take this pistol, his servant, armed his servant. You take this pistol, and anyone who comes in this house other than me, you kill him. And you keep killing him. He walked around his manservant to the end of the table. He snatched off 2 musket rifles, leaned them up against the fireplace. He snatched up his last 2 pistols. He loaded them all. He fixed his bayonet on each one of those rifles. And alone he marched out the door. As he broke the door, he looked back for a second to tell his wife to get back and shut the door. What she could see was a British regiment marching through the field. You know where William went? Out into the field. He fired every shot he had by himself. When they realized that there was no one else and it was just him, but he had killed 4 men. He dropped one musket at his feet. He fixed the other musket to charge. One man going to charge a regiment of British soldiers. The British soldiers closed in on him. They did not shoot him. They bayoneted him in the neck, through the other side of the neck, through his rib cage, bayoneted him 57 times, and left him lay in the field to bleed out. Of course, his wife, in her rage, was now strong enough to overpower the manservant. The British was marching off the field. He's laying there in the grass. Whole family run out into the field. There he is. They roll him over. Blood spitting out everywhere. Blood out his nose, out his ears, out his mouth. You know what he's doing? Reloading. Get me on my feet. I'm going to make another run at him. His wife said, why? Because every moment I stand my ground is one more moment my brother will be ready to meet him when they get there. Now this is the mentality of a warrior. This is the mentality of someone who defends their land and their family and willingly lays down their life for their brother. This is the mentality that must come back into this nation, and especially into this group of people. You must truly grasp and understand what it is to be a warrior citizen. Wives need to understand what a warrior citizen man needs to hear. The motivation that he needs. The conviction he must have to lay his life down for you. Because it's not just love. Some men can muster it purely out of love. Let me tell you, 1 drop of my blood in love would kill 10 men for my wife. That's how much I love her. But not every man has that. But I'm also backed up by other things. The power of righteousness. I know I'm right. That's right. Beyond the shadow of a doubt, I know I'm right. People call that arrogant. People call it pompous. But it's not. Well, maybe it's pompous. Look up the definition of pompous. Coming from a position of authority, you command respect in a room no matter what people say. That's pompous. Pastor is pompous. But he's not arrogantly pompous. It's about what his intent is in his heart. What is the intent? We talk about this all the time. An emotional state of mind and a thought process or an activity can go either way. It can be good, it can be evil. It's what is in your heart. What fills you? Going back to the other day, one of the hardest things you'll ever do is to kill a man with nothing but love in your heart. You kill a man out of anger. You kill another man, woman, don't matter. You all kinds of emotion, fear, sadness, misery. It's quick, it's easy. It just happened. but stare down a man that you will actually have love for and say, brother, I'm sorry, you got to go. That is a difficult thing to do. The female persuasion should get more credit, to me, in my opinion. Because your job to build that man up and turn him into that man. Yes, sir. Now, it's his choices that will decide whether or not he's going to be that man. But it is you who walk behind him and beside him that will build that strength.
That's right. That's true.
You will nurture the character of a man, and your weakness will play out in that conversation.
True. Come on.
This is the reason why women have a specific job and duty. This is the reason why they are the caretakers of children. Because when you raise a young lady, this is a monumental job that's ahead of her. When you raise a young man, he has a monumental job, but he also has to be able to don't get a swelled head.
That's right.
Just because you have genitalia that's a little different. His rage must be tempered with mercy and love. Because a man all by himself is full of rage. And at a moment's notice, he will kill his fellow man in anger. It takes a man to reel himself in and make a man out of himself. Well, let me say, males to men. Just being male doesn't make you a man.
That's right.
And it is hard to achieve manhood without a mother and a father. It is hard to achieve true manhood throughout life without a proper mate.
True.
Any man wants to say, I don't need a woman, you an idiot. You're not just a liar, Pastor, you an idiot. You an idiot disguised as a moron. But that is the Leviathan pride. Come on. I got a penis. I'm a man. Come on, bring it. But how do you temper mercy? How do you know who deserves your manliness and your judgment and who doesn't? It's about temperament. It's about the other side of you that you don't understand. That comes from a woman. And when you have to start making decisions, the reason why you create a family, it is to teach you these things. This is the reason why Satan hates it. That's why when we talked earlier about him trying to destroy the family, he has to. Because when a man enters the role of making decisions for not only men, but also women, he now has to consider other things that is not of his nature. So it tempers him and turns him into a harder piece of stone. A more deadly wieldable weapon. Because his conscience is now saying, all right, there are other variables to this equation other than my own personal daggone desire. So the eugenics program is, the number one enemy of the eugenics program is the family unit. How do I split apart the family unit? And when you actually look at that, Pastor, didn't you say 10 minutes till 2? Aren't we 5 away now?
No, sir, it's 12:15.
No, sir, it's 12:15.
All right, I need new glasses. Anyways, so basically what you're looking at when you look at this, the eugenics family has attempted to give you something that is the same but different. I was told to coin that phrase, but I think people have been saying same difference for a long time. I just say it's slightly different. So it's the same but different. See how that works? The state now is presenting your children with a new eugenics doctrine, the upgraded version. It is called Agenda 21, or Sustainable Development. But before we got that far, I missed a great portion of this, and I want to backtrack because I got ahead and I forgot that I didn't cover it. Everybody in this room and everybody in this nation should say a prayer to Yah, thanking Him for the walk of one man. Now, everybody might think I'm about to say Jesus. But no, this is a man most of you are not familiar with. Probably never heard his name. His name is General Smedley Butler. General Smedley Butler is the one and only reason why you do not officially speak German. Some eyeballs are staring at me now. General Smedley Butler is the one and only reason why you don't have goose stepping down Washington, D.C., 1600 Boulevard. If you do not believe that, you better research. I'm going to give you some of the information right now. As we move forward into the 1900s, of course, in 1913, Pastor Dallas talked about the Federal Reserve banking system that was erected. This creature came out of Jekyll Island. There is a book, The Creature from Jekyll Island. Put it on your reading list. What I suggest is that you guys might start a library. We don't have to buy 58 copies of the same book. And you guys can exchange it and read them. So we have Propaganda, which is a book from 1894. We have now, you want to read Edward Bernays' book on modern consumerism. And now you are looking at reading, and the title just fell right out of my brain. Did somebody write it down? Creature from Jekyll Island. Understand what the banking system is. Truly. So the Creature of Jekyll Island came forward in 1913, raised its ugly, nasty head, and we created the Federal Reserve banking system, which is Satan's application of money on earth instead of gold and silver. They look similar. Not really, but they function similar. Until you print too much, until you corrupt too much. All of these things cannot happen with gold and silver. But Yah wants something that works and is uncorruptible. Well, Satan wants something that works that's slightly different, that is corruptible. How do I corrupt the hearts of men? I throw wealth at them. I give them power. Well, you know, if you can buy a small island and every woman on it, rape and molest the ones you want and kill the rest of them, that's intoxicating to some people. So when you look at the Creature from Jekyll Island, be assured what you will find there is not your friend. What you find there will not make you happy. You will learn what the fiat dollar truly is. And the reasons why. Because they didn't hide it. So read the book. Make it a piece of your curriculum. Know your enemy.
Brother Erick.
Go ahead.
One of the saints posted, just for your information, there was a book written by Major General Smedley Butler in 1935 called War is a Racket.
Yeah, we were getting to that next on the reading list. But everyone who heard that, thank the saint for that. And please write that title down. War is a Racket. But let me tell you about General Smedley Butler. Let me give you the story. So the Federal Reserve banking system goes into effect. The Federal Reserve, or the Rothschilds and the Morgan Group, as you research this, you will figure out who these names are and what they mean. To me, they mean Satan, acolyte. But you will get a grasp on that at some point. Now, these individuals move forward in time, and what they do is they start creating put options, liens on people's properties, liens on the market. And they used gold. But the Rothschilds and the Morgans got more gold than most countries. So it ain't going to bother them none. Why? Because with the rest of their money, they're going to snatch everything up pennies on the dollar. They're looking to break the economy so they can buy it up cheap. It's called consolidation of wealth and power. The cycle continues to go. We hear people like Ron Paul talk about, well, there's booms and there's busts in the economy. And the Federal Reserve creates booms and busts. It's not booms and busts. It's build-up and extraction. That's what it is. The bank builds and builds and builds and builds and bam! And then they extract everything they want. While it's all busted into pieces. And they say, oh, don't worry, we're working hard on it. We'll get it fixed and up and running soon. That's so you'll put the rest of your crap in there so they can build it up again and take that. So the Federal Reserve banking system moves forward for one purpose. For the crash of originally it was 1921. They had to have two crashes. Why? Because the coffers of the federal government had gold in it. We could work our way out of the first crash, and we did. 1921. The crash lasted 18 months. It was horrible. It was a depression. But after 18 months, everybody started to go back to work. Things started to happen. Why? Because the federal government said, okay, we're going to spend gold into the communities. But that's what they wanted. So they could get at that gold. Because they had to remove it from the system. Then, after the first crash, they started more put options. They started creating all of these crazy financial instruments. All of these different things to help you make money and get back into the market. Well, from 1921 until 1930, there is this group called the Nazi Party. Well, they're over there in Europe. And believe it or not, before we go there, if you read Adolf Hitler's work, there's another book you should read, whether you like it or not. It's called Mein Kampf. Yes, sir. Read it. In there, he physically professed out loud in his book. He said, man, we created eugenics. The Aryan race. The Holy Roman Empire. But them people over there in America do it better than we do. He loaded his scientists up in the mid-20s, put them on a boat and said, sail over there to America. I don't care how much gold it costs. You learn their version and you bring it back to the homeland. Eugenics is what supposedly wiped out all the Jews. And the gypsies, and the cripples, and the poor, and every other indigent person, or less than useless eater, all the words we've used already, in Europe and in World War II. But it was America's eugenics. Our version. Taken back and adopted by the Nazi Party because it was better than what they hadn't taken theirs far enough. I mean, they were like kids in a candy shop. Oh, look, you can use that chemical to do what? Oh, let me write that down. Let me buy you books. And then they went home and they created schools academies for the little brown shirt, goose-stepping sons of guns to go and educate themselves on how to better kill their fellow man, how to better control their fellow man, how to get rid of the useless eaters and the cattle. Margaret Sanger came later, of course. But we're building back up to her. So in the 1920s, at the same time, scientists were going back and forth. So you got German ships, right? We're not at war yet. So the German boats are going back and forth. Well, scientists are coming over, right? Does anyone else know what was coming over? Gold. Piles and piles of Nazi gold. It was going to a specific place. A bank. The Bank and Trade. Anybody heard of the American Bank and Trade? Anybody who know who owned it? We'll get to his name in just a second, because that's going to be lovely. So this gold is coming over. And the Nazis knew that in World War I, there were promises that were made to soldiers. Well, those promises were not kept. The federal government could not pay them. 500,000 of them, and they were angry. And speakers from the Nazi Party came across the ocean and started speaking to them. You don't have to take that mess. You're a soldier. You're the righteous man. You defend your flag. You defend your nation. The people owe it to you. It's yours. You died for them. You lost brothers and friends for them. So the Nazi just pouring honey in their ear. So then a messenger came over to this bank. And they talked to one of the lead Nazi proprietors in this nation who owned that bank. His name was George Herbert Walker. Now, George Herbert Walker was maintaining and laundering Nazi gold in his bank. He was told, look, we're going to take that gold. We need a man who will lead these 500,000 soldiers on a march on Washington. And we will overthrow this nation. It will become a Nazi nation overnight. All of the eugenics society will pool their money and back you. And we will join on the side as Adolf Hitler's ally. Right here. Now, to carry out this task, George Herbert Walker, he was an aristocrat. He was also a Fabian. So he had to be manipulative. Okay? He couldn't just step out and say, yeah, it's me. I'm the one doing it. So he recruited somebody. And how he recruited him is he gave him two things. One, as someone who already believed in the Nazi idea, was an acolyte of George Herbert Walker. He said, I'll tell you what, you'll be the vice president of my bank. All my banks, you'll be the VP. And I'm going to let you marry my daughter. I'm going to make you my son-in-law. Well, this gentleman said, that's a beautiful idea. His name was Prescott Bush. He had a son. Out of love for Mein Führer. And the man who made me what I am, the good Nazi. I'm going to name my son after you. I'm going to call him George Herbert Walker Bush, the 40th President of the United States. Yeah, oops. If you do not think the bloodline is important, you should pay attention. There are only 3. Some people dispute and say a 4th. This is not including the first 9 presidents. We're talking from Washington down. The first 3 presidents are who? Washington, Adams, Jefferson. Those are the only 3 that are not bloodline descendants of the Queen. You ever notice that the president never used to, but now for some reason walks on the red carpet? He's royalty. He's a man God. He comes from the divine scepter of the Catholic Church, better known as the Queen of England. Every single one. And let me inform you, there is no president, if they're related to the Queen, then guess what? They're related to each other. Does Barack Hussein Obama walk on the red carpet? So what is his bloodline? George Herbert Walker. He's a big-eared, slick-tongued, Mac Daddy, gigolo-walking Nazi.
Come on.
You see, all of us little people in the world, we got tired of the old game. Oh, it's just another stupid, rich-ass white man going to stand up there and tell us how life is. Well, we're not ready for a woman. I mean, look at Hillary Clinton. We're going to get into her in a minute. What do we need? Well, we're not ready for a woman. We're not really ready for a Hispanic. I'll tell you what we need. It'll uplift everybody. It'll make them feel better. Go out there to the edge of the family tree. And Brock's standing over there. Well, shall I say, Mr. Sotoro.
That's right, sir.
If that is his name. The CIA agent dirtbag that he is. That's right, I said it. I'll be home in a little while. Y'all can come by the house. But that's what he is. He's a Nazi.
Yes, sir.
I just had to put a face on it. Because, see, in 1995, most people don't realize how close we came to revolution. Most people have no idea. You need to go back and look and research, look on YouTube, and watch the trials that went on. Mom rolled out in the field. Anybody know who Mom is? The militia of Montana.
Yes, sir.
Assembled in the green.
Yes, sir.
Weapons hot. And the FBI was on the other side, staring them down. And the military came in, they looked up and down the field, and they said, we're in trouble. Mom's going to stomp us in the ground. Let's take a few steps back. You want to know about Mom in this event? Go look at Ali North. Go look at the Ali North trials. Look at the congressional hearings where they brought these people together. And there, you saw a general, there was a general sitting there and he was a black man. He said, look here. You may think there's no one intelligent out there west of the so-and-so, but they're ready to kill you.
Come on.
Congress took a step back. Fear. They have to fear you, not you fear them.
That's the truth. Yeah.
That's how your control over government works. Fear. That's how their control over you works, right? That's all they need. Everything else is beget out of that fear. So everything you want must be beget out of the fear you instill in them. That's where it starts. That's how good government is formed. If we, the people, want something, we demand it. Well, yeah, you march in the street all you want, making all the demands you want. What do they do? Yeah, your license is up at 5. Get off my street.
That's right. It's true. We got a corral for you.
Oh, you don't want to leave? Call the riot police. Bring in the armored vehicles. Bring in the tear gas, the dogs, the big brutes with batons to beat your women and to beat your men in the street. They don't fear you. Haven't feared you in a long time. But you fear them for sure. Oh, we don't want to do that. We're going to get in trouble. Oh, don't do that. That might draw attention to us. We're all going to walk this thin line. That's what we do. Yeah, we're trying to teach, we're trying to uplift people. I can't go too far that way because then they're going to come across the fence after me. And I don't want to fall in there because I don't want to be on their side. So we walk this thin line, obeying what we have to, not obeying where we can, deciding for ourselves which laws we'll obey, which laws we will deny. Well, I got a message for you. Obey the laws of man until they contradict mine.
That's right, sir. Amen.
That means all of them. If they don't agree with me, cast it aside. And come what may. It's on and cracking.
That's right.
In my opinion, this is the reason why I do what I do. I do not obey. I will not obey. I don't care how minute the order is. I don't care how minute or insignificant people think that the law is that I am bucking. I'm going to do it anyways. I define the rules. Isn't that what y'all said? You have the choice. Freedom of choice. Don't infringe your choice on anybody else. But I will give you the freedom of choice for you and what is yours. Where do you think king upon the land, allodial title, comes from? We have a allodial title. It means there is no authority above you on this earth. If Yah comes in with a hurricane and wipes you out, well, guess what? You're wiped out. But no amount of soldiers or anything, read the original Constitution. You even had to put the king's man on your land. You could tell the president, hey, look here, buddy. Take your crap down the street and get it off my lawn. That's why allodial titles don't exist anymore, except in Texas. And they're just about gone there too. The Lone Star State is the last vestigial of any kind of the original common law. Now, let's continue with General Smedley Butler. So, Mr. Prescott Bush took all this money and he went down and he looked around. He said, well, I need a war veteran. I need somebody with a commanding presence. I need somebody who's a real war hero. Somebody who's actually gouged the eyeballs out of another man. I mean, real. Well, there's General Smedley Butler. He's at the country club. He's sipping his tea. So they started to have conversations. And General Smedley Butler listened. He sure did. He listened to all the names, all the people involved. And he said, sure, I'll do that. No problem. I will overthrow this country for you. No problem. I'll take care of it. What do I got to do? Give me all the information. So they laid the information out to him. He said, all right. I now have all the information. Thank you very much. Let me get right on that job. Can I have some of that gold so I feel better and I can put it in my vault? Well, Prescott Bush, the moron, gave it to him. You know what General Smedley Butler did? The very next thing he did was he marched up to Capitol Hill, Nazi gold under one arm, information under the other, and said, hey, I don't know what these idiots were thinking, but I'm a patriot. I love my nation. Here's the gold. Here's the names. Here's the proof. Turned them all in 1931. In 1931, the United States of America Congress raided George Herbert Walker's bank and found pallets of gold, pallets of Nazi gold. Charged the entire organization with money laundering and aiding, abetting the enemy. Go look it up. You go to the Library of Congress, find it. There's actually another gentleman like myself who went to the Library of Congress and read it. He's on YouTube. He does an open live interview. He worked for the federal government, and he is now dead. But that's where this information comes from. And you have to really dig into that situation, but you will be disheartened because you will find out that no one was convicted. And the case went unresolved. Plenty of gold, that's right. All them congressmen said, ooh. Well, that Nazi symbol hurts my eyes, but I can rub that off. I can heat it up and mush that out, and then it'll just be gold. But the moment they did, that Nazi symbol, they mushed it off the gold, and it bore their way on their soul.
True.
They bore that mark. And all of it did come out later when people were, the Ollie North trials, where certain congressmen start asking questions and they're told to shut up.
Yep, that's right.
To not talk about that at this. Please do not touch on that at this time, good congressman.
That's right.
That's what's said. And then he rebuts. And then he says, now I told you that we can have a meeting later, but please do not touch on that at this time. Because the TV cameras are on. Ollie North is a fall guy. But what Ollie North did came out of the bushes that we're talking about. Now, there's a documentary as you move closer to the war, where we got in the war. All this event has taken place throughout the 30s, depression, misery. However, we have to get into the war. We have no real option. However, the Fabian got both a benefit and a hindrance. Okay? Our government decided to get into the war on behalf of the British. Now, the problem is that the British were funding Adolf Hitler.
Yes, sir.
They created him. They aided him. He's a Nazi. So why isn't the scepter of their Nazi Christ? I mean, let's really start breaking it down. That's what the Pope is. He's the Nazi Christ. The Christ is a position. The reason why Jesus became the Christ is because he met all of the prerequisites to become the Christ. Because we already knew there was going to be a Christ. Everybody's standing around waiting on a Messiah. God gave you a list of things. That's what you look for. When you see this, you got the Christ. His last name is not Christ.
That's right. Come on.
He was anointed with the title because he met the requirements of the office.
Glory, sir.
Well, you got the same thing. When you start to look at the other side of the coin and you move on, Adolf Hitler was completely funded, but just like Abraham Lincoln, Adolf Hitler, once he got so big, he said, wait, what do I need you for? You just a printing press.
Sir.
You a punching bag. Look how big I am. See, we're back to the whole Satan idea. Look at how beautiful I am. I'm Adolf Hitler. I'm going to rule the world. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go ahead and wipe you off the map, and I'm going to be Pope. Well, then he had contended where he challenged not only Yah, but he challenged Satan. Well, if the game is about Yah and Satan, I didn't hear no third part. You got Yah, Satan, or Hitler. So Hitler had to go. But we were already Nazis. Eugenics had permeated our entire society. They were writing down laws based upon Nazi theory. Law. We weren't the few, the proud, and the brave. That may have been what, and I'll say it this way, the idiot believed who put on the uniform. My grandfather was one of them. He fought in World War I. And then turned around and volunteered to fight in World War II. He was in Army infantry in World War I. They said, "You're too old to be an infantryman." He said, "Well, put me somewhere I can still shoot." My trigger finger worked. And they said, "What about a boat?" He ain't got to march nowhere. He ain't got that far to go. You know, boats are big, but it's not like an 18 clip hump. It's not like he's got to go 48 clicks over the Sahara Mountains. He's just going around the boat. So they put him in. That's another personal story I could tell you about the Battle of Bismarck. My grandfather was one of the only men who lived through the Battle of Bismarck. If you don't know about the Battle of Bismarck, it's an impressive thing. Because the engineering that the Germans used to create the Bismarck, probably the most impressive Navy vessel that's ever sailed the ocean. I'll give you one little tidbit. My grandfather, he was on deck, all the way up front. And on a boat, you have a lighting system. For those of you who have never been in the military, you do Morse code to a lighting system. And the boats could communicate back and forth. And he was up on deck operating the lighting system. He was given the order to steam in charge. Bismarck is coming at him. Now the American Navy vessels were closing on the Bismarck. And my grandfather said to me, he said, I asked the gunner's mate, how far to range? That means, how far are we till we can land shots on that vessel? They said, 7 miles. And the first American destroyer was sunk. They couldn't even touch the Bismarck, and it was sinking ships. That's how impressive it was. Basically, when the battle was over, there were only 3 American vessels left, only one with its own steam. My grandfather was on them. Out of the complement on the destroyer, there were 8 men left alive. You know where they were? Standing on the deck with sidearms. One man drove the boat, the rest of them stood on the deck. They got real close to the Bismarck, and they were shooting pistols, trying to kill the men on the deck of the Bismarck. They sunk his boat. All the men went in the water, and as the sharks ate their brothers, they watched the Bismarck sail away under its own power. It took 78 torpedoes, still float. Go back and research. One of the greatest naval battles that man's ever experienced. Now, when you start to look at where these Nazis went, there was no closure to the trial. However, George Herbert Walker Bush somehow, by Congress, inherited oil fields and land equal to the gold that was confiscated. Oops. He later parlayed that power through another individual to create something called the Central Intelligence Agency.
That's right.
Well, then he, through his life, rose to the powerful position of director of the CIA. So a secret police force run by a Nazi family that attempted to overthrow this nation is now your protection from terrorists. It's a rather interesting thing when you really start to think about it. Now let's roll in another individual. Because you know, George Herbert Walker became president. We all know that, right?
Yes, sir.
But he was president for how many years? 12. Come on now, did you really think Ronald Reagan ran anything? The head Nazi in charge, the leader of the CIA, the founding member, the creator, is going to play second fiddle putting golf balls down the green while a has-been hack actor runs the show? Now I know I'm going to make people mad because everybody has their golden bull named Ronald Reagan. Not in this room. But people who watch this video out there, I'm going to be chastised. It's Ronald Reagan. Really? Do you see the power increase and the power he gave to the CIA during his presidency? You should go look.
It's true. It is.
You better pay attention. And who was he giving that power to? The CIA. Who owned and run it? Bush, who was standing around. Yeah, go ahead and sign that. Yeah, put your name right on that. Yeah, it's a good idea. I'm with you, Mr. President. It's me and you for the country. So, when you start to really break this down, there are things that will disgust you. Now, because of what we call the quickening, or what I call the quickening, it's a Hollywood line, but I call it the quickening because it's an energy force. It's a situation where they're building and it becomes quicker and it becomes quicker and it becomes more paced. Well, they thought we failed in 1920s. We are not going to fail this time. However, we need something called NAFTA. We need something called CAFTA. But we don't have a Bush of the right age to put into the White House. So the Bushes are standing around. Put up the thingy and let's play some badminton. So we'll have a family barbecue. J.P. Morgan Group comes down to hang out with them. Rockefellers. What are we going to do? Cooking them some pork chops. And some ribs on the grill. That's what they eat, right?
Yes, sir.
So they're barbecuing their swine. They're trying to figure out, well, what are we going to do? Here comes this girl skipping through. He said, I got it. Hillary, come here. Get on the phone. Call that cute young man, what's his name? Bill Clinton. Tell him I got him a woman. And in run a Bush into the White House. Okay? Believe it or not, people can dispute it. I don't care. Go look. Look at the bloodline.
Excuse me, brother.
Go ahead.
Excuse me, brother Erick. We have another question. Backing up just a little bit, talking about the German influence. The question is, given the power and tech knowledge that Germany had, would it be prudent to substantiate the ideas that Germany was scouring the globe for lost and or hidden ancient knowledge and did find much?
Okay, that is, I'm going to say yes. But that is a topic that I will have to do a video seminar on and produce for my home for people who are interested. Because I truly believe that in the end of times, the only way that Satan is going to be able to convince human beings to go out and challenge God is to give them space weapons.
Yes, sir.
It's the only way to convince them that they have the power to take on God. So that's a whole nother talk. And it's a whole talk that delves into what Babylon really was. AKA, as my opinion, has another name. It's called Atlantis. Homer, Hermes, these people talked about it. The great city with the spire that rose into the heavens. But That's a whole nother direction. So don't take the little bit I've said about it and make assumptions on what I believe or don't believe. It's another very long and lengthy topic about what Adolf Hitler was running around the world looking for. Why did he go into the seat of the desert, to the seat of Yahweh's creation? What was he looking for? What were those scientists and things digging around for? Did you know Egyptians had electricity?
Yep, sir.
Did you know they had light bulbs?
Yes, sir.
Did you know they had sonic power?
Yes, sir.
Now come on now.
Yep.
What do you know? I mean, you take a vase or a vase. You'll see them. You look at the Egyptian photos. You look at a tomb, and you see all these vases that line the wall and line the wall. Now they break this little box open. It's got heads on it and stuff, and they say that's where their guts and stuff is stored in the jars, tiki jars. But they don't tell you what them jars lying around the wall are. They're batteries.
Yes, sir. Right.
They got coiled up copper stuffed down into grape squeezins, grape juice. Generate a half a watt of electricity. 40 of them in a row gives you what? 20 watts.
Yes, sir. True.
How you going to paint in the basement of the pyramid
Yes, sir.
with a campfire, soot all over the place, and you're going to come out with this beautiful, vivid, colorful, dried painting? Ain't going to happen. Plus, it's going to burn up the oxygen that's in that room, and every so many days they're going to be coming, all right, carry these 10 artists out, they're done. Give me 10 more. You need to break your concepts of what you think about reality. They tell you that you are the advanced civilization. Why do you believe them? You don't believe them about anything else. So what makes them telling you the truth about this?
Oh yeah, mankind come out of the cave and we're on cutting edge, and that's the reason why we got to change all these things.
Everybody goes, yep, that's me. I'm on the team. I'm not selfish. There's no I in team. Ooh, them cave people back then. Those barbarians. How do you think you get completely preserved brains from the Egyptian time period? Think about it. It's just in the last 30 years that back in the 1900s, but you have a completely preserved brain. Now, you could put a brain into certain liquids, and it will last in form an extremely long time. But the synaptic pathways and stuff inside the brain starts to break down. But the Egyptians could produce you a human brain pulled out through the nose. Brain, nose. Now if I pull a brain out the nose, it better be this all squashed up looking spaghetti nasty thing, all screwed around. But it's not. It's a brain. How'd they do it? I don't know, they're cavemen, right? Don't ask me how they did it. It's because they had technology. But that's a whole nother conversation. Whole nother rabbit hole. But the question was a great question, and people should be researching that, because you will find spaceships. Adolf Hitler had spaceships. There is a government file that says spaceships came over Washington, D.C. and hovered in 1943. You can call me a crackpot all you want. But the Bell flew. The Bell is the name of the ship that the Germans created. Whether they took that technology from ancient Babylon or whatever they found in the desert, I don't know. I wasn't there. But I tell you, it flew. Many pictures of it. And I guarantee you it's what we all call space aliens today. You ever cracked a book? I'm going to do this real quick. Think about when you open a book, then they're giving their testimony about abductions. Read an abduction book. Really read it with an open mind.
Sir.
Who are the aliens? Tall, beautiful, blonde-haired, blue-eyed aliens that speak with a German accent. You'll figure all that out when you start learning about what Antarctica is.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And where Hitler and the Nazi Party fled to. Okay? The Nazi Party had to flee to the Arctic because, and this basically ties in because I'm going to say it is my belief that the reason why they are in the Arctic developing technology is because they are the ones that are going to attempt to convince you that they're God. How do you speak to all nations and fool someone? Technology. Fiery chariot in the sky, a spaceship. How else are they going to convince people that they're God? That's a whole nother story, like I said. And you can look at William Cooper for some of that work too. You can look at a book called Behold the Pale Horse.
Yes, sir.
So add that to your reading library. And before I forget, something else you want to add to your reading library. And let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, this is expensive. This is not cheap. It's called Black's Law Dictionary. All the way up to volume 9. The community should do what they need to do to pull that together. You do not want a PDF. You do not want the internet application. You want the original books. If they're in good shape, they cost you the minimum about $100 each. There's 9 volumes with a minimum of 2 books in each volume. So now you can start to see the price tag. But it'll give you the definition of human, person, everything we've talked about. Every definition or legalese terminology of the foreign language that is not yours are in those books. Now, once you get up to volume 10, they start to go back and make it look nicer. They rewrite it. So that's where you're up to date. Once you get into the up to date stuff, well, Black's Law Dictionary by volume 10 has been seized by the enemy. It is no longer a freestanding book. It is a tool now. But when your forefathers, when Jefferson wrote the Constitution, he had a Bible and he had Black's Law Dictionary. So argue all you want. Go back and get the original book. There's why he didn't call people persons. He never would have. He never used the term human. Ever. So go back and get those books. Realize where you can reference. That way when someone hands you a court document, here you go, here's a summons. You take that summons, you walk over, you flip over Black's Law Dictionary and say, all right. Oh, that's what they're accusing me of. You may think it's one thing, but the book will make sure you know exactly what it is that they think you've done and exactly who they think you are. That allows you to argue jurisdiction. If you're a human, they have jurisdiction. If you are a sovereign, godly, independent creature on the land, they have no jurisdiction. You define what you are. And then you utterance and tell them. So when we start to think about all of these different situations and all of these different things, and we look at the eugenics program, and we look at what is going on in America today, it really brings us the Prescott Bush family, the family line. You're looking at Hillary Clinton. Then you're looking at George Bush Jr. George Herbert Walker Bush Jr., the cocaine drunk. Look at his fingernails. Look at the whites of his eyeballs. The proof is right there in front of you. Yeah, well. I wasn't actually there, so I can speculate that he was a hole stobber, but I can't guarantee because I didn't lay eyes on it myself. I mean, really, unless you see someone partake of an act, the only other way to know is to partake of the act with them. So you ain't rolled me into that conversation. Now, with that being said, he's a drunk. I believe other sexual orientation, maybe even pedophilia, but it's my opinion. I cannot prove any of that. There's books. There's books you can read that say they can prove it.
He surrounds himself with male porn stars.
Yep, he sure does. I mean, if you look at President Bush's Jr.'s entourage.
And they're not going with women.
Nope, he is surrounded often by male porn stars from the pornographic industry. Okay? Pay attention. So, after that, Bush Jr., I mean, eventually your enemy does make mistakes.
Oh, yes, sir.
All the time. Just like we make mistakes. It's all about capitalizing on your enemy's mistakes to gain ground, to gain the upper hand, to win the victory. That's what warfare is about. We're going to go at it, we're going to go at it, we're going to go at it, and go at it. Somebody's going to stumble and make a mistake. My team's on top of it. We make the big push. We win the day. We take the cake. We take the flag, the city, whatever it is. Well, I think George Bush Jr. was a serious mistake.
Yes, sir.
And we should have capitalized at that time. We should have stormed the gates. He made too many mistakes. Blatant, open mistakes. Honesty. He gave you raw honesty. Why? Because he was too drunk to know otherwise. What did he say? He stand up there on stage and you see him. He's got that drunk man's twitch. And somebody's talking to him. But it's just a goddamn piece of paper. Right to everybody. What were you waiting for? I'm going to cram that piece of paper down your throat. You will swallow it and you will like it. How many times did he make mistakes? And then you see him on TV, like you see all kinds of outtakes where he talks to people before the interviews and different things start, giving people the bird,
Yes, sir.
talking trash.
Yes, sir.
You have the footage of him where he says, "I might as well be God."
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Come on.
I mean, I don't understand why we didn't storm the White House building then. But finally, people got angry enough that they needed something different. So they got this old geriatric, sellout, dirtbag. He goes, he don't even know what country he in. I mean, John McCain is standing in Iraq, supposed to be talking about Al-Qaeda. We got to get them Iraqis. Oh, wait, what did I say? Oh, I'm sorry. Them terrorist Al-Qaeda. He's so riddled in the flesh. When you looked at him when he was running the race, he had that big thing up the side of his face. Cancer all eating him up. And they just carved that stuff out of his face, slapped a Band-Aid on it, prop him up. He's got a debate to do. And what they put on the other side, I mean, really, when you first glance, Obama comes out and he's walking. Ooh, he struts. He looked good in his suit. I'm a strong black man. Hold his head up. And then think about it. Go back and compare Adolf Hitler pictures.
There you go.
With the picture behind his head, making the halo. Adolf Hitler standing there. Look at Barack Obama's campaign pictures.
Same thing.
With the Obama seal behind his head, looking up. The chosen one is here. He going to save mankind. That's what they said. Now, George Junk and Ugly Bush, see, he had this cousin, a crazy-eyed cousin. I mean, we're talking about this nut job, way out there on the side fringes. Okay, gets angry. You ever seen Dick Cheney when he gets angry?
Yes, sir.
His eyes start to. Watch him. Well, guess what? He is related to George Bush.
Yes, sir, he is.
They're cousins. Right? Go back and watch Barack Hussein Obama stand on stage and tell you, you know, we didn't want to admit it during the campaign, but the black sheep of the family, Dick Cheney, which also means he's related to who? Which makes him a Bush bloodline. In the White House, you have consecutively had a Nazi Bush family member in the White House now, what, 20 years? Think about it. The Nazis have been in direct power and control of your government, at the helm. They're everywhere else too. Right now we're just talking about the office of the White House. And the whole time, every single Bush being a Nazi, which translates into being a Jew, which translates into Ashkenazi, which translates back to Babylon, which translates into what? The elite divine power to rule. Now, what have the Bushes been doing? What are they steadily at work doing? Standing in the White House going, we're going to take them powers. 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 Just continually building. They're building Caesar, the new Holy Roman Emperor. You don't think. But the reality is that's what's going on. So pause on that. Go ahead. Got to have a microphone. You can't speak. People at home got to be able to hear you.
Is it not true that Arnold Schwarzenegger, is he not also related to the Bush family?
Yes, he's also a diehard Nazi. You can go back and look at Arnold Schwarzenegger, right, when he became governor. And this is where I got it from, the thumb. Arnold Schwarzenegger standing on the cover. He's got his arm around the guy like this. He got his thumb out like this. And right on his hand is the SS Nazi friggin' ring that his daddy wore while he killed people. And his belt buckle is a big old saucer plate looking dish that says, has a Nazi symbol in the middle, the SS imprint on either side. He said, I'm proud of my daddy. Look at me, I'm Arnold Schwarzenegger. Read the article. I'm a God man. I should have my own nation to rule. So they gave him one. It's called California.
Yes, sir.
There was actually a push at one time, which got squelched. And then all the dirt about Arnold came out, which really fell apart. But there was a push to change the Constitution. Because believe it or not, I truly believe at one point in time, Barack Hussein Obama was not the chosen man. It was Arnold Schwarzenegger. But that's another story. So now, you have a complete Nazi family. Oh, yeah, I'll be home in a little while. Y'all can stop by. You have a complete Nazi family who's taken over. It's really, we lost the republic in the 1870s. But it was a slow grind. Because if you listen to Pastor's message, well, first they got to grind old knowledge out of you. There can't be a remnant for you to look back on. For you to go, wait a minute. My daddy and my granddaddy said that there's something wrong with this. They got to grind that out first. And then they start filling it back in with what they want. It's called re-education. They opened up re-education facilities all over the United States of America right in front of your face. It's called a public school system. What did Adolf Hitler said? Give me but one generation of your children, and I will rule the world. So mothers and fathers in your homeschooling, now do you see how important you are?
That's right.
You are the counterbalance to the Nazi agenda. And they hate you.
That's right.
They will attempt to destroy you. They are even now passing laws to outlaw homeschooling. You cannot hide. At some day, at some point, there will be on your doorstep for what you believe in. So you can start preparing. Some people say that it should be just us alone. That's a whole nother story where I'll tell you I think that's not tactically sound. We sit at the end of the street and let them kill everybody else on the street. And then we let them lick their wounds and patch themselves back up before they march down and kill us. That doesn't seem all that smart. But we have that. That's where I keep going back to. This is about the mind. You have to be able to use it. Discern. Use the Bible. Do what is best for your community. Capitalize on what is around you. Put into service what you need. But that's a whole nother conversation, like I said. So we start to look at the Ashkenazis that are embedded into our society. I mean, you're talking J.P. Morgan, the whole entire Morgan group. You're talking about the whole entire Gates group and Gates Foundation. All the Bushes, all the way down to Jeb, that loser down there in Florida. Possible. Although there is this really, really, really pretty looking man, as they call him, over in Utah who's a Bush who's making some noise. I'll be careful he isn't the next one. His first name is Ronald. But that's a whole nother story. There's an endless wealth of information. I only have so much time. I only know what direction to go because I just wait for the Spirit, the ideas to move into me, and that's what I try to give and divulge the important information that I can. Now, whatever Adolf Hitler was looking for in the desert, it's mighty funny how once Adolf Hitler fell, where is the American military? Look at it on a map. Trooping all the same places Adolf Hitler went.
Yes, sir.
How? Because we are them. The Nazis did not lose the war. Why do you think we came to such a quick and expedient agreement to bring the Nazi scientists over here and put them to work for us?
Yes, sir.
How do you think all them Nazis got away? Now, granted, yeah, there was a whole slew of soldiers. There was a little bit of brass that went on trial in Nuremberg. A little bit. But it wasn't all of them. Where was Himmler's entire staff of sadistic, baby-killing, gassing freaks? Where'd they go? They either went to Chile or they went to here. They went to Chile first and then later came here. You know where they went to work? CIA, NSA, NASA. These are all Nazi foundations. Look at the NASA patch.
Yes, sir.
Take a close, hard look. I ain't going to tell you, I want you to look. See what you find. Know your enemy. Worldwide communication grid. Now, sustainable development is your new beast. you should spend time understanding what sustainable development or / Agenda 21 is. It don't care what county you go to. I don't care what state it's in. I don't care what you do. There is either a direct agreement for Agenda 21 or an office and agreement of some kind promoting sustainable development. They are the same. And they are Nazis. They believe in the Nazi doctrine. Well, why isn't the world sustainable as it is? What does sustainable development say? Well, there's too many poor people. There's too many little folk. We're just trying to help. We want there to be able for you to enjoy as being little folk. We want you to enjoy some trees. We want you to enjoy go fishing. We want you to enjoy a little farm. But what are they really saying? We got to exterminate most of you so that you can go fishing. So that you can have a farm. Because it's your fault the world is falling apart. There's too many of you doing what? Breathing. Not breeding, breathing. What the heck do you think a carbon footprint is? Now, how can a creature that takes in oxygen and expels carbon, you're going to make a tax on carbon, so what does that mean?
That's right.
I'm going to tax you to breathe.
That's right.
What happens if you can't pay the tax?
You don't breathe.
You don't breathe.
Come on.
You better know what Agenda 21 is. You better learn it quick like in a hurry. Inside and out. You want to gain it's war. And mothers better be learning it real hard. The men need to talk about it and learn about it so they can figure out how they're going to fight it. The women have to prepare the children with the knowledge to fight it in the next generation. So this is a complete, entire package. And the men and the women should be working together, exchanging that knowledge. Well, what did you ladies know? What did you ladies figure out? Maybe you found something we missed.
That's right.
And the ladies in the verse need to say, hey, honey, what did you learn? What did you find out? This is what I'm showing the kids. Is that right? Did you find out something different? Then you can make correction. It is a unit effort. Family unit.
Yes, sir.
Everything is cyclical. Cycles. Comes back around. It's a big circle. That's all it is. And the things that they attempt to destroy are the things you should invest your time in to stop them. If they're putting all this energy and they want to destroy the family unit, then you should be putting all kinds of effort and energy into it to build up the family unit.
Yes, sir. Glory.
And this Agenda 21 project, sustainability, sterilization, mass sterilization. And let me tell you what, if a judge says, we got to sterilize these people, what's the next step going to happen? The cops are going to show up.
Yep.
What are they going to carry? Guns. They're going to say, get on the truck. I got this court order. Is your name Sally Jefferson? Get on that truck. Is your name Billy? Billy, get on that truck.
That's right.
How you going to keep from getting on that truck?
Sword. Shoot them.
Better have your sword.
That's right.
You might as well die in the street on your feet fighting
That's right.
than to give up your heritage and your bloodline willingly.
That's right.
Make them take your blood. Don't give it to them. Don't give them 1 inch, 1 drop, not one nothing. These people are murderers. They are thieves, degenerates, rapists, molesters. Yeah. Whores of faggotry. And they will attempt to do all of these things to you and your community. People say I'm crazy. People have no idea how many times I have heard that I am a lunatic. Just as well as many other things that I won't say here. But that's what I get. And they always do, Mr. Lovely, you are out your mind. Do you know what you're saying? I'm sorry, it's time for me to make the donuts. And remember that old commercial? It's time to make the donuts. It was a commercial about everybody should go to work. It wasn't about buying donuts. It was about, oh, he's tired. No matter how tired he is. Oh, it's my duty to my country. I got to get out of bed. I got to make the donuts. Sleepwalking through life. It's okay to be tired. See, even the donut guy looks that way. Oh, okay. Give him my coffee. Give him my donut. Let me go to work.
That's right.
It's time to change things. It's time to change our mentality. Start to truly think about what is going on around you. When you look at Agenda 21, I want you to look for maps. And look at the Agenda 21 maps. And these maps have blotches all over them. Red, yellow, green, and black. And figure out what those dots mean. All the red dots are off limits to human life and development. It's about 7/8 of the entire continent. 7/8, I said it. The yellow and green dots, they're for recreation, development, things of that nature. But it says those areas will only be available to those with the proper clearance.
That's right.
So in other words, the yellow and green dots are the elite's playground, where they going to get to go fish and hunt and skydive and mountain climb and ride their ATVs. Because it's the same but different. God said the meek shall inherit the earth. Well, somebody's going to inherit the earth, all right, but it's the elite, not the meek. That's what they think. And you are going to go where the black dots are. Stack them and pack them cities. Bunched up near the coastline. No land. You're going to get a cubicle apartment. I don't know how big they're going to be. I've seen different designs of new coming skyscrapers and housing buildings that the housing authority is looking at. But for a single individual, what I have seen is we're going to start here from the edge of the chair where Brother Dowell's sitting, and your room will end right out here about where my foot is. And it might stretch the length of them chairs. And forgive my language, but I'm going to tell you, you're going to eat in that room, you're going to sleep in that little space, you're going to shit in that little space, you're going to piss in that little space, you're going to clean your body in that little space. That's it. That's what you get. Now, if you do not believe such a thing, do the research. And I'm going to tell you something else that's going to show up on your radar. You see, we're going to continue with the theme that, as I always do, the same but different. So let's go back to Moses. We're going to dial the button all the way back to Moses. Moses was what? Anybody? Anybody know who Moses was? What do you call him? Prophet? Okay, he's just Moses then. We'll leave it there for a second. What did Moses go up on the mountain to get? The Ten Commandments. Well, from the time of Moses to the time now, where is Satan's 10 Commandments? They got to be the same but different, right? He's had everything else, hasn't he? He's going to have a birthing of an Antichrist, is he not? So he's got to have 10 commandments. Whew, how do we overlook that? Where are Satan's 10 commandments? They're in Georgia. They're called the Georgia Guidestones. They're written in all the major languages of the world. Stand 12 feet tall. Huge monoliths. Nobody even knows who put them there.
That's true. That's right.
Nobody knows who owns them. But there they stand. The first line of Satan's 10 commandments is the world's population should be maintained at 500 million or less.
Yes, sir. True.
At all times.
Period.
How many people are on the planet?
7 million plus. Yep.
That means 6.5 billion people got to go. So what do you think the plan is? Now we can talk about, ooh, you can be space aliens and this, that, whatever. I don't care what you think. But if they tell you that their plan is to eliminate you, they have a plan to eliminate you.
Yes, sir.
Already on the shelf.
Yep.
They just got to figure out a way to implement it, which is what they're doing now. You see order out of chaos. Order out of chaos. That is their credo. Everybody know what a credo is, right? Credo, battle cry, whatever you want to call it. Mantra. But that is what they say. Order out of chaos. Well, technically, the system you live under, as disgusting as it is, it has order, don't it?
That's right.
So you ain't in chaos yet. They have to bring about chaos to supply you with the order. Correct.
That's right.
So now you have chaos is coming. Can you see it?
Yes, sir.
When we invaded multiple countries, we can't maintain those lines of battle. We're losing. Countries are rebelling. People are going to war with each other. Things are starting to fall apart. Just like Rome, the barbarians are at the gate. Rome is already burning. And you got some self-absorbed faggotry, touching himself, strutting man Caesar, who would rather play with his toodlywink, go golfing, go to Spain, go on 17 vacations. Rome's burning, and he's spending the coffer. Yeah, I know it's hot back there for y'all, but I'm going on vacation.
That's right. True.
Look at major things that he's done. How do you create a super Congress? Where did he get the authority to do away with Congress and whittle it down to 12 people? Oh, now Congress is still on TV. But it's just a sideshow. Go back and look at the Super Congress. He took power unto himself to create a new Congress of 12 people. The time. Go ahead.
Another question concerning the Guidestones. Is that a theory or idea that is tied to the Rosicrucians?
The Georgia Guidestones are really just dropped in the middle, and nobody knows anything. It's just a bunch of theories, because no one will claim them. Nobody. But yet we won't go tear them down. The guy whose land that they're on won't claim them. There is no manifest money trail. Anybody tells you there is, they're lying. They're out their mind. They better show it to me, because I ain't seen it. Nobody claims it. It's just there. Now, granted, it had to get there somehow, but nobody's talking. So I have to say, I don't know the question. I don't know the answer to that question. I know what it says on the Georgia Guidestones, but I don't know who put them there. Got to be honest. Now, people really need to go back in time also and look at an artist about 2000, early 2000s. The date escapes me. But it's around the Denver National Airport. Okay? A specific artist and group of artists was assembled to paint a mural. And if you actually research, you will find out they are to paint a mural of the coming world change. Well, they was Nazis. And they painted away. Dead babies. Now see, since then, I have gone there, and they have diligently painted over that stuff. The only thing that's left is a statue of Horus in the field, looking at a runway that buries itself in the ground and doesn't seem to go anywhere. He stands at the tip of it with his giant sword, looking. Red eyes glowing straight down at this runway that lasts about 500 feet and disappears into the earth. Then there's this other giant red Mustang, or black Mustang, with these red eyes. No matter where you go, it's looking at you. You can stand any side, any angle. You can stand behind it, and it's looking at you. It's reared up on its hind, and the head looks like it's actually twisted like this. You can stand behind it, and you will see the eyeballs looking at you. It's the most eerie feeling you've ever had. But some of the murals are left. But you can go and watch a video documentary where they walk through and show you the original mural. The death of the earth, the death of the old way, the death of mankind, the death of animals, but mostly the death of old people. And when I say old people, anybody pretty much age 15 or over. I can reprogram children. I don't need adults. And if you actually read, or you actually look at this mural, you will notice, if you pay close enough attention to most people who did documentaries on these murals, they missed one thing. An ark. True. The same, but different. And you will see animals of choice, 2 by 2, enter this ark. It's not y'all's ark. What will the chaos that is coming upon us entail? I'm not completely sure. It's going to be bloody. It's going to be disgusting. It's war. Yes, sir. It's extermination is what you might as well call it. Because the only ones that are going to be doing any war are the people who've armed themselves. Mm-hmm. The people in the cities are going to be butchered wholesale. Chopped up, chewed up, spit out, stomped down, slapped together, gone. Yep. Truth. Get out of the cities. I beseech you. I implore you. I know you got a good job still. I know you. I guess I'm looking at the camera. Yes, sir. I know you make some money. Your children are still going to a halfway decent school. Whatever excuse it is that you want to feed me. You will die. And you will deserve it. Yes, sir. Right. It's time to take off the kid gloves. The reasons, well, let's just say it. And let me get some water for this one because this is going to be a tough one. You deserve to have your wives beaten. You deserve to have your children raped and pillaged upon. You deserve to lose your wealth. You deserve to be dragged out into the street. You deserve to be skinned alive and beaten like the hog you are. Now, that may not be for the people in this room. But if you live in a city, you are putting your eggs in someone else's basket other than yours. So you deserve it. You're asking for it. You don't like that? You want to hate me? That's fine. I'm not telling it to you because I hate you. Someone that hated you wouldn't tell you. They stand in the corner, hey man, they're going to go back to the city and they're going to get raped, they're going to get abused. It's going to be funny. Come on. We can watch it, it'll be hilarious. Because that dirtbag's going to get what's his. I'm telling you because I love you. You're going to die. I can't save you. Israelite nation can't fight every battle for everybody. Isn't going to. You out there are going to fight some of your own battles. Hopefully you'll look at the word and you'll figure it out. That's what I'm hoping. But I know it, the remnant ain't that big. I also truly have an opinion that I think we can change the dynamic of this game. But that's a whole nother conversation. But if you are in the city, look at how your city is designed. Your city is not designed as a city. It's a prison. Look at it. Take an aerial topographical map of your city. Sit down with a military man and ask him how to close that city up like a box. And he'll tell you if he's got any rank or stature about him. And you will not get out. Rat in a cage. And then they will slowly turn up the juice on you. To where you will eat your neighbor. You will slay your neighbor coveting what he has. It will be a cesspool of sin. What happens when society breaks down? What does it become? Nothing but chaos, coveting, lust, hatred, stealing, pillaging, murder. Isn't that all the bad parts of the Bible? What is that? Because when you're put into a crisis situation with no way out, what happens? The emotion swells to the surface. The logic of Yah, the brain that he gave, this thing about blind faith, people need to stop telling me that crap. Because it ain't about blind faith. How can you have blind faith, make a blind faith decision, and say the word discernment in the same sentence? You obviously don't know what one of those words mean. Every time Yah attacks you, what does he do? He forces you out of a mental, logical state into an emotional state, wanting you to give him a prescribed emotional response. What does Yah tell you to do? Stop and think. Think before you act. So do not tell me that God is about the emotion of love. He has love. He is all things. But let me tell you, he's got all the other side too. You don't know it. He's the lion and the lamb.
That's right. Yes, sir. Believe it.
Brother Eric, we have a question.
Fire away.
The question is, what's your take on the Messianic second Exodus, and how does this play into the end time events?
Ooh, they getting deep, ain't they? Yeah. We're once again we're jumping. We're jumping down the line. I think it would take me a bit longer than what I have to try and answer that. Yeah, we got 5 minutes till everybody in this room is going to start throwing things at me because it's time to eat. But I tell you what, if it is not addressed by me, saints who are watching on this stage today, it will be addressed in a video or radio broadcast either with Pastor Dowell. Well, it'll be with Pastor Dowell, but it'll be either be on his radio or mine. Okay. So since we're getting ready to go to lunch, we'll try to transition into the food period with positive ideas. Brothers and sisters and non-brothers and sisters. Yes, the average IQ of the human being has been diminished through the assertion of Agenda 21 and chemicals. However, you can cleanse some of that out of you.
Yes, sir.
You can remove that from your body. But you should think about what some of that means. Do not become depressed. Do not become emotional. If you want an emotion to fuel you, want to fuel your mind, anger. Because they're trying to kill you.
That's the truth.
And what is really, when you start thinking about what anger is, it is the trigger that sets you into a combat mode. It changes the dynamic of your mind. So you don't want to have hatred. You want to maintain love. But see, that's a whole other conversation. What you really want to do is, you guys really need to know that you can fix this. That just because there are forces out there, if they are not in your living room, then what's keeping you from saying, hey, brother, how you doing today? Can we fellowship?
Right.
Hey, you want to go shooting? You want to go fishing? Hey, let's go tend to the crops. Let's converse while we go harvest.
That's right. Unity.
Think about the message that was given to you yesterday. Yeah, there's all this ugly. Mountains of ugly. But what are you supposed to think on? What did Pastor tell you? Lock on to one of them. Lock on to one good idea. One pure thing. And focus. And fellowship. You see, the Fabian Marxist is the natural manifestation of a separating spirit. Lots of them working together. What do they want you to do? They want you to feel weak. So don't be emboldened. They want you to feel helpless. Don't be full of hope. They want you to feel inadequate. That's where fellowship comes in. Assure your brother and your sister that they are not inadequate.
That's right. True.
That they bring joy to your life. That you appreciate them. That their existence means something. Even if you don't completely agree with them. Focus on these things. Have heart. Because in the end, those of us with Yah can't lose.
That's right. Hallelujah.
The battle in our death It's nothing but another stepping stone to the kingdom of heaven. Now, we're not supposed to seek that out to die, but in the service of my fellow man, especially of my brother or my sister, what better way could I go? To die in this war, you should leave this world with a smile on your face. Ear to ear. When they come up to put that last round in, you be like, I'm going to shoot you. I'm ready.
Maybe try to reload.
Yeah, the next words is, I'm coming home.
Glory.
I paid my price. Here I lay. Go ahead and kill me. You done shot me through the spine. I can't stand up. That's all right. Don't cry. Don't be weak.
That's right.
In your final moments, do not be weak. Because the game's over. There's nothing else they can take from you on this earth. If you can get a shot in, take it.
That's right. Yes, sir.
If he shoots you and it didn't actually shoot you in the spine and you laying there and you can reload as he's walking up, be prepared. Take your shot.
That's right.
But if not, leave with a giant smile on your face. Why? Because you didn't break me. I won.
That's right.
You can only kill me. You cannot take my freedom. Because just like y'all told you, true freedom is in here.
Yes, sir.
Your forefathers said that freedom was an ideology, a theory, a thought, a way of life. Just as the Bible said it was. So it should be for you. There should always be joy and contentment right here. No matter the vile and disgusting putrid thing you look at. No matter how evil they are, they got horns, stuff dripping out their mouth, don't matter.
That's right.
Joy and contentment should be right here. And those of you who see others who do not have joy and contentment, if they do not have joy and contentment, you are failing. Fellowship requires other people.
Come on. That's right.
Some I've learned while I've been here. Because yesterday's message was for me. And I tell you what, do not take for granted what you have. Because I don't have it. You better cherish what it is that you have. Cherish the people that are around you. The reason why you hug and you greet your fellow brother and your fellow sister is to make them feel important. To know that they are a cog in your wheel of life.
Glory.
That their existence means something. Which should bring joy and contentment to their heart. And to their mind.
Hallelujah.
And it should be to you. If you feel bad, if you feel downtrodden, if you feel inadequate, go to your brother and don't talk about you. Talk about how important they are to you.
That's sir.
See how better you feel.
Come on.
When they hug you and they say, hey, thank you. That was important.
Yes, sir.
I needed that today. They will lift you up.
True.
So with that being said, let's all go eat and fellowship.
Glory.
Would you like to say a few words on the way out?
Sure.
Microphone's right here. Could you turn me
Okay, sure. We're going to be back. Father's will, and I believe it is, 6 o'clock. 6 o'clock for those who want to hear. The rest of you, go back to sleep. All right. Shalom.